his response, the groom, Bidemi Bangbuye, expressed gratitude to all who contributed to the success of the event.
I want you all to have a good time, enjoy, eat, drink anything you can see. As he said, the dance floor will soon be open for you to come and show your financial mind, so please don't be shy. Alright, so thank you, Joey. I see you. One love.
The evening then concluded with a lively dance session, marking a joyous celebration of the couple's union. Biscon Communication Global Media Network heartily congratulates Lotachuku Unneoma Anyago Eze and her heartthrob, Bidemi Bamidele Bangbuye, on the auspicious occasion of their wedding. As the Biscon Latino Show, BOS, the globally acknowledged leading brand in the cutting-edge, inimitable production of groundbreaking events dating back many decades, prepares to celebrate its Silver Jubilee anniversary, it's time to blow our own trumpet resoundingly, stating the qualities that have continued to endear the BOS brand to all our fans across and beyond Nigeria. In the last 25 years, the Biscon Latino Show, BOS, which is the longest-running general interest magazine program on television in Nigeria, has covered and broadcasted events of social, economic, corporate, political, and entertainment values every week unfailingly. With iconic events dating back many decades captured for posterity, BOS honors those living and immortalizes the dead everlastingly. The Biscon Latino Show, BOS, proudly boasts of being one of the broadcast outfits with the richest library of archives of past events. The Biscon Latino Show's awesome archive of iconic events parade the coverage of convocations of universities, coronations of traditional rulers, inaugurations of state governors in Nigeria, the inaugurations of Nigerian presidents, and President Barack Obama of the United States of America. And mighty in the society, the BOS archives is replete with very exciting pan and beyond Nigerian super coverages. As for the festivals like Calabar Carnival, Ujude Oba Festival of the Ijebus, Lishabi Festival of the Egbas of Ogun State, and others, the Biscon Latino Show BOS simply is the toast of all. The corporate concerns, the banks, telecommunication companies, and other business concerns have made BOS their prime choice over the years. The newspapers, state governments would rather the almighty Biscon Latino Show give the coverage of their awards our inimitable packaging, as exemplified by what we have in the awesome BOS archives. The Biscon Show, BOS, is the preferred choice of state governments in the propagation and publicity of their programs to their different constituents in different states, because the Biscon Show is the #1 program they've all been watching religiously in the last 25 years. In fact, the Biscon Show, BOS, commissioned to provide a comprehensive nationwide campaign program for President Goodluck Jonathan, President Muhammadu Buhari, and President Bola Tinubu, which took the BOS team around the country campaigning for votes for the candidates at the time. The Biscon Show, BOS, was also involved in rigorous campaign for Governor Duoye Diri of Bayelsa State, Senator Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, and Governor Gboyega Oyetola of Osun State. Incidentally, these were all clients of BOS from the two different political parties, APC and PDP. Also, in the very rich archives of BOS, with events that span over 25 years, is the one where BOS paid an everlasting honor to immortalize Nigeria's First Lady of all times, Mrs. Stella Obasanjo, who died 19 years ago. The Biscon Show, BOS, the first and the best, still remains on the very top of our game.
Thank you for joining us today on Biscon Television Foreign News. I'm Stella Opara. Coming up in the news, Venezuela President Maduro declared winner in disputed election after 11 years in power. Israeli ministers authorized Netanyahu retaliation against Hezbollah. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni pledges to relaunch relations with China. To retaliate for a deadly rocket attack Israel and the USA was carried out by the Lebanese Shia militant group Hezbollah. Ministers met in emergency session in the wake of the strike on the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights on Saturday evening, which killed 12 children and teenagers from the Druze community. Hezbollah has denied responsibility. It was the deadliest cross-border incident in months of exchanges of fire between the two sides. The attack has heightened fears that what has been relatively contained hostilities so far could spiral into all-out war. Western governments are urging Israel to show restraints in its response. The White House said it had been in continuous discussions with Israeli and Lebanese counterparts since the horrific attack on the playing field in the Druze town of Majdal Shams. On Monday morning, an Israeli drone strike outside the Lebanese. You're watching Biscon Television Foreign News. Now to the rest of the news. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has pledged to relaunch ties with China as she commenced her first official visit to Beijing since assuming office. During the start of her 5-day tour, Meloni met with Chinese Premier Li Qiang and signed a 3-year plan to enhance economic collaboration between the two nations. This visit follows Italy's withdrawal from President Xi Jinping's Belt and Road Initiative (BRI) last year, a decision made because Rome felt the initiative did not benefit Italy. According to her, the trip is a demonstration of the will to begin a new phase to relaunch bilateral cooperation. Premier Li's office released a statement indicating that the two countries aim to enhance mutual a July 1st Supreme Court ruling involving former President Donald Trump. Biden called on Congress to pass binding enforceable rules that require the justices to disclose gifts, refrain from public political activity, and recuse themselves from cases in which they or their spouses have financial or other conflicts of interest. He also urged the adoption of an 18-year term limit for the justices, who currently serve life tenures. Biden issued his proposals a week after ending his re-election bid and endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris as the Democratic candidate to face Trump, the Republican nominee in the November 5 U.S. presidential election. Biden, who earlier in his presidency convened a commission to study Supreme Court changes, has appointed one of the 9 justices, liberal, about 1,200 kilometers south of Moscow. According to Russian railways, about 140 people received cuts and bruises, adding that 15 people, including 3 children, had been taken to hospital for treatment. The driver of the Kamaz, who was thrown about 15 meters by the impact, was in a grave condition with blood on his face. Russia's emergency ministry said fire and rescue workers were trying to free passengers, saying a total of 9 carriages had been derailed. And that's the news on Biscon Television Foreign News. I'm Stella Opara. Thank you for staying with us.
Andani, Ogoni, Efik, and Ijo. It was organized and led by the rural women of Owerri and Calabar provinces. The modus operandi of the protest involved sitting by the women. The women also protested against tax levies imposed by the colonial government, and it led to the death of many of the women. The Abeokuta Women's Revolt, also called the Egba Women's Tax Riot, was a resistance movement led by the Abeokuta Women's Union in 1947 against the imposition of unfair taxation by the Nigerian colonial government. The women of Abeokuta believed that under colonialism, their economic roles were declining, while their taxes were increasing. Additionally, they argued that until they were granted representation in local government, they should not be required to pay taxes separately from men. As a result of their protests, 4 women received seats on the local council, and the taxation of women was ended. National Association of Nigerian Students, formerly called National Union of Nigerian Students, protested in April 1978 over imposition of increased fees, resulting in a series of campus protests across the whole of Nigeria, known as the Alimosco protest. The protest occurred as a result of the effects of the International Monetary Fund imposed structural adjustment program introduced by the Ibrahim Babangida-led government. However, the government responded by sending in the army and police, leading to the death or serious wounding of over 20 students. 3 universities were closed, and NUNS was banned as several university staff and students were also dismissed. Another major protest which happened in Nigeria was the June 12 demonstration. The protest occurred as an aftermath of the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential elections by Ibrahim Babangida. The elections were the outcome of a transitional process to civilian rule, spearheaded by the military ruler Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. The unofficial result of the election, though not declared by the National Electoral Commission, indicated a victory for Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abdul Jonathan government. Meanwhile, the demonstration led to the reinstatement of the subsidy and a review of the federal government spending. Protests took place across the country, including in the cities of Kano, Surulere, Ojota in Lagos, Abuja, Minna, and at the Nigerian High Commission in London. The use of social media services such as Twitter and Facebook was a prominent feature of the protests. Lastly, the 2020 EndSARS protest is a move in further revelations of the unit's abuses, leading to mass demonstration across major cities in Nigeria and widespread outrage on social media platforms. The protest further called for good governance and accountability amidst unprecedented hardship in the country. The EndSARS protest witnessed a pattern of violent repression, including shooting and killing of demonstrators. Meanwhile, a memorial protest was held on hardship in the country. Despite calls from various quarters, such as ministers, APC stalwarts, monarchs, religious leaders, and the presidency for the protesters to sheath their swords to stop the planned nationwide protest, the 1999 Constitution, under Section 40, guarantees every citizen the right to assemble freely and associate with others, as protests are a vital expression of democratic rights. The Nigerian Constitution allows citizens to voice their opinions, grievances, and demands collectively and effectively. In Nigeria, where political and social issues often go unaddressed, protests provide a platform for the discontented to make their voices heard. The active participation is essential for a healthy democracy, ensuring that the government remains responsive to the needs and aspirations of its people. Flipping through the history books, a majority of protests which occurred in Nigeria has not always been peaceful. It has been marred by violence, destruction of infrastructure, killing, amongst others. Meanwhile, the United States, United Kingdom, and Canada have issued security alerts to their citizens in Nigeria, warning of a potential violence during the planned nationwide protests. The Inspector General of Police has ordered all groups planning to take part in the protest to provide certain information to the police command closest to them to forestall breakdown of law and order, as well as destruction of critical national infrastructure and looting of private businesses. The information, according to him, included proposed protest route and assembling points, expected duration of the protest, names and contact details of protest leaders and organizers, measures to prevent hijacking by criminal elements, including key identifiers for possible isolation of potential troublemakers, among others. To safeguard the rights of protesters and secure citizens' lives and properties, all hands must be on deck from the federal and state government and security agencies so that citizens can express their dissent and grievances in order to pave way for dialogue and negotiation. 25 years and counting. Democracy in Nigeria. Past, present, and future. According to Abraham Lincoln, democracy is the government of the people, by the people, for the people. Democracy is a form of government in which the power is held by the people through elected representatives. It is characterized by principles such as political equality, freedom of speech, rule of law, and respect for human rights, where citizens participate in decision-making processes, hold their leaders accountable, and shape the direction of their society. The history of democracy in the country has been marked by a series of political transitions, military interventions, and struggles for democratic governance. Nigeria's democracy has been fragile and fluctuating since independence, as successive governments struggled to create a sense of national unity in a complex country whose borders were drawn by British colonialists, incorporating more than 200 ethnic groups, coups, and periods in military rule. The first general elections took place in 1964, which led to the formation of a government headed by Prime Minister Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. However, the early years as an independent nation were marked with political instability and military coup. The first military coup took place in 1966, leading to the overthrow of the civilian government and the establishment of military rule under General Aguiyi Ironsi. Despite the return to civilian rule in 1979, Nigeria continued to experience political turmoil with multiple military coups and periods of military rule. Judiciary is headed by a Supreme Court. With 25 years on, democracy in the country has faced challenges over the years, including allegations of electoral fraud, corruption, political violence, ethnic and religious tensions, and economic struggles. Also, Nigeria's army, once regarded as the continent's most capable, has been dramatically weakened over the past decade. It has failed to provide basic security in large parts of the country, struggling to contain an insurgence by the terrorist group Boko Haram, bandits, kidnapping, and other forms of security threats. In recent years, the country has witnessed a growing youth-led movement advocating for good governance, accountability, and the end of police. Upholding democracy in Nigeria requires a commitment to the rule of law, protection of human rights, transparency and accountability in governance, and free and fair elections. Conceptualized by the ace multilingual broadcaster of immense talent and creative genius, Prince Bisi Olatilo, Chairman CEO of Biscon Communication Global Media Network 25 years ago, the Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, has become the strongest, most admired and preferred global brand in the art of high society celebrity entertainment broadcasting. For the past quarter of a century, the ubiquitous The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, has become the face of Nigeria on global television, projecting the image of the country with our peculiar lifestyles, fashionable dress sense, and the different ways Nigerians celebrate from the north, east, west, and south, showcasing proudly Nigerian inimitable styles of celebration. From very humble beginnings to global recognition, the Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, marks 25 years of captivating, non-stop entertainment. BOS celebrates remarkable entertaining brilliance, unforgettable moments, and lifelong memories. For 25 years, the ubiquitous Bisi Olatilo Show has charmed and captivated hearts of our global audiences beyond borders with enchanting and unmatched entertainment. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, celebrates 25 years of incredible creative power as the most admired brand in the art of high society entertainment broadcasting. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, is usually the first program to break the news about any big-ticket event across and beyond the shores of Nigeria. As the Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, celebrates its 25th anniversary of setting the pace and pioneering a very compelling and engaging style of celebrity entertainment broadcasting, 25 years on and still counting, BOS has embarked on a new era of 24-hour TV broadcasting with Biscon Television. Biscon TV, which is on terrestrial and satellite broadcast platforms, churns out news, sports, politics, business, as well as lifestyle and entertainment programs 24 hours daily. Biscon TV, which has a very strong presence on YouTube, is the fastest growing platform on YouTube and other social media platforms. It's a magnificent transformation from BOS, a weekly program, to Biscon TV, a 24-hour TV station which churns out general interest news, sports, and lifestyle and entertainment programs. More years of brilliant broadcasting from the stable of Biscon Communication Global Media Network beckons.
It's the News Hour on Biscon Television. I'm Stella Opara. Thank you for joining us again. First, the headlines. Tinubu understands concerns of Nigerians, hopeful of peaceful protest, says Minister. Nigeria faces $200 million annual funding gap for immunization, says Yakubu. In business news, Customs assures port users of uninterrupted operations amidst planned protest. On the foreign scene, Iran vows to avenge killing of Hamas political leader Haniyeh. And in the world of sports, Chairman Elegbeleye lists benefits of the MPFL Sevilla deal. Now the news in full. The Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Wale Edun, has expressed optimism that the planned nationwide protest will be peaceful and orderly. Edun stated this during a ministerial press briefing in Abuja, where he explained that President Bola Tinubu understands the planned Educational Loan Fund, NEL Fund, has said it would disburse the sum of 850 million naira to tertiary institution students today. The managing director of the fund, Akintunde Soy, made this known during a press briefing in Abuja, noting that this loan is different from the over 1.7 billion naira that has been disbursed to about 20,000 students. Earlier, Sawyer revealed that the fund had disbursed institutional fees to 20,000 students through their institutions, adding that a total of 260,000 loans, including institutional fees and upkeep, have been approved. No fewer than 1.2 million students are expected to benefit from this cardinal program of President Bola Tinubu's administration. Newsmen reported that President Bola Tinubu had approved 35 billion naira for the takeoff of the scheme after signing the law backing the scheme on April 3rd. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, has approved the promotion of 1,018 senior and junior staff of the Federal Capital Development Authority, FCDA. The Executive Secretary of FCDA, Shehu Ahmed, made this known in a statement in Abuja. Ahmed said that the promotion was for officers on grade level 7 to 15, covering 2022 and 2023. He explained that the 1,018 senior and junior staff were successful in the promotion exercise conducted in April 2024, adding that the minister also approved the immediate review of the Conditions of Service and Operations Manual for the FCDA. The Executive Secretary said that the approval was conveyed by the Chairman of the FCT Civil Service Commission, Emeka Eze. Executive Secretary of FCDA further noted that the authority was in the process of setting up the necessary machinery towards the realization of the objectives for the review. You're watching Biscon Television News. The news continues shortly. Welcome back. Now to business news. The Customs Area Controller, CAC, Apapa Port Command, Controller Babatunde Olomo, has reassured port users operating in Apapa that activities of the Nigeria Customs Service would continue uninterrupted, despite apprehensions about an impending nationwide protest. A statement from Customs Public Relations Officer, Apapa Port Command, Usman Abubakar, said Olomo gave the assurance at a stakeholders meeting in Apapa. Olomo said it has become imperative to rebuild confidence of importers, exporters, licensed customs agents, freight forwarders, and other port users on the availability of NCS officers in Apapa Port on all working days as usual.
Noya has alleged that the Commission is already working for all the Progressives Congress APC to retain power in 2027. Recall that the national chairman of the Labour Party, Barrister Julius Abure, division of the Federal High Court, has ruled that the state chapter of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, has the right to appoint legal counsel for themselves without interference from the national legal advisor of the party. This followed a suit brought before the presiding judge Mohammed Obile by the national legal advisor of the PDP, challenging the authority of the state legal advisor of the PDP in Rivers State to appoint legal representation in a case filed by the both parties seeking to declare the seat of Martin Ameule and 27 others vacant, following their defection to the APC, which the PDP had applied to be joined. The Rivers State chapter of the PDP had appointed a lawyer, Joshua Musa San, to represent them, but the national legal advisor of the party, Kamaldeen Ajibade San, also appeared in court to represent the party as well, and argued that as a national legal advisor, he...
Welcome back. It's now time for foreign news. Iran has vowed to avenge the killing of Hamas political leader Ismail Haniyeh, who died in an overnight airstrike in Tehran. Haniyeh, 62, is the most senior leader to be killed since the 7 October attacks. Iran guest house in northern Tehran at 0200 local time beyond Iran's borders. The attack brings Iran's security agencies under question and their control over Israeli actions of this sort inside Iran. Israel has assassinated a string of Iranian nuclear scientists over the last decade or so, but never has it targeted a dignitary or a prominent Iranian political leader. 3 years ago, the former intelligence minister, Ali Younesi, said that
Welcome to Sports News. Chairman of the Nigeria Premier Football League (NPFL), Honorable Gbenga Elegbeleye, has explained that clubs in the league stand to reap financial benefits in the future from the partnership with Spanish side Sevilla FC. Elegbeleye spoke from Spain, where he traveled to put pen to paper in formalizing the collaboration that would see NPFL clubs' coaches receive training facilitated by the club. As part of the deal, a team selected during the NPFL Under-17 Youth League would be embarking on a training tour to Spain and will be hosted by Sevilla while in Spain. They would receive training at the club academy and play friendly games. The players, numbering 30, have been training in a camp at the FIFA Goal Project since July 21 and have played trial matches with some Abuja-based clubs. Elegbeleye also said that the partnership with Sevilla also aims to strengthen finals of the men's football tournament at the 2024 Paris Olympics approach. All 4 games will be played at 2-hour intervals on August 2, 2024. Among the most exciting matchups is the face-off between France and Argentina. The two football powerhouses would reignite their rivalry on French soil. This match is particularly noteworthy as it comes more than 18 months after Argentina's dramatic World Cup victory over France in Qatar. Here's a full list of games and times. 2 o'clock Morocco vs United States, 4 o'clock for Japan vs Spain, 6 o'clock Egypt vs Paraguay, now 8 o'clock for France vs Argentina. Now all games will be played on August 2. And that's it for Biscon TV Sport News.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you're watching Biscon Television News. Coming up next is entertainment news. The Cinema Exhibitors Association of Nigeria, CEAN, has said cinemas across the country generated 4.6 billion naira in the first half of 2024. Chairman of CEAN, Ope Ajayi, in an interview with newsmen in Lagos, said the cinema played host to 1,199,661 visitors within the period under review. According to him, there was an appreciable increase in revenue generated in the first half of the year when compared to revenue. 186 million Spotify streams and 142 million views on YouTube. So certified platinum joins the list of Afrobeats records to receive SNEP Platinum certification. You're still watching Biscon Television News. The news continues shortly. Welcome back to Biscon Television News. Now to the major points of the news again. On the national scene, Tinubu understands concerns of Nigerians, hopeful of peaceful protests, says Minister. Nigeria faces $200 million annual funding gap for immunization, says Yakobo. In business news, Customs assures port users of uninterrupted operations amidst planned protest. On the foreign scene, Iran vows to avenge killing of Hamas political leader Haniyeh. And in the world of sport, Chairman Elegbeleye lists benefits of the NPFL Sevilla deal. And that's the news on Biscon Television. Compiled and
Biscon Latino Show, BOS, the globally acknowledged leading brand in the cutting-edge, inimitable production of groundbreaking events dating back many decades, prepares to celebrate its Silver Jubilee anniversary. It's time to blow our own trumpet resoundingly, stating the qualities that have continued to endear the BOS brand to all our fans across and beyond Nigeria. In the last 25 years, the Biscon Latino Show, BOS, which is the longest-running general interest magazine program on television in Nigeria, has covered and broadcasted events of social, economic, corporate, political, and entertainment values every week unfailingly. With iconic events dating back many decades captured for posterity, BOS honors those living and immortalizes the dead everlastingly. The Biscon Latino Show, BOS, proudly boasts of being one of the broadcast outfits with the richest library of archives of past events. The Biscon Latino Show's awesome archive of iconic events parade the coverage of convocations of universities, coronations of traditional rulers, inaugurations of state governors in Nigeria, the inaugurations of Nigerian presidents, and President Barack Obama of the United States of America. 2010 World Cup in South Africa, covered by the ubiquitous Biscon Latino Show, BOS. BOS was also at the inauguration of the Alake of Egbaland 16 years ago, Oba of Benin 8 years ago, Oni of Ife, Ulu of Warri, and many more. As for the birthday, anniversary, and weddings of the high and mighty in the society, the BOS archives is replete with very exciting pan and beyond Nigerian super coverages. As for the festivals like Calabar Carnival, Ujude Oba Festival of the Ijebus, Lishabi Festival of the Egbas of Ogun State, and others, the Biscon Latino Show BOS simply is the toast of all. The corporate concerns, the banks, telecommunication companies, and other business concerns have made BOS their prime choice over the years. The newspapers, state governments would rather the almighty Biscon Latino Show give the coverage of their awards our inimitable packaging as exemplified by what we have in the awesome BOS archives. The Biscon Latino Show, BOS, is the preferred choice of state governments in the propagation and publicity of their programs to their different constituents in different states, because the Biscon Latino Show is the #1 program they've all been watching religiously in the last 25 years. In fact, the Biscon Latino Show, BOS, commissioned to provide a comprehensive nationwide campaign program for President Goodluck Jonathan, President Muhammadu Buhari, and President Bola Tinubu, which took the BOS team around the country campaigning for votes for the candidates at the time. The Biscon Latino Show, BOS, was also involved in rigorous campaign for Governor Duoye Diri of Bayelsa State, Senator Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, and Governor Gboyega Oyetola of Osun State. Incidentally, these were all clients of BOS from the two different political parties, APC and PDP. Also, in the very rich archives of BOS, we event to immortalize Nigeria's First Lady of all times, Mrs. Stella Obasanjo, who died 19 years ago. The Biscon Latino Show,
addressed by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, CON. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this time, permit me to invite to the microphone to give us the opening remark of this World Press Conference, the Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, Fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. Please, a round of applause for him.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, distinguished Senator George Akume, Minister, know that each time we ask you, members of the media, to come and listen to us, you have always obliged. We can't thank you enough. In this march of democracy, the media is a very important partner, and that is why the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, consistent with his policy of ensuring that Nigerians are always in the know about government's programs and policies. And that is why, as you know, we have instituted periodic press briefings here, and the last time we had sectoral briefings by so many ministers of the cabinet. Today is a special one. The Secretary to the Government of the Federation is going to be addressing us on critical national issues, after which the respective ministers here will have opportunity to also chip in, and then you members of the media will have
a combination of challenges and opportunities. Challenges because Nigerians are passing through unintended economic challenges occasioned by a few of the bold policy decisions taken this administration. Opportunities because our economy is being refined and recalibrated for better future. And when dialogue is a stronger pedestal for good governance. Economic prosperity for the nation remains the ultimate goal of the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, because it is the engine that drives progress, lifts families out of poverty, and builds strong. Could not pay for importation of petroleum products. He said it was very bad business. It's one of the most respected development economists in the world. President Afrexim Bank in Nigeria. I said it was at that point that Nigeria approached Afrexim Bank for support in order to enable us to import and pay for petroleum products. Bad business. The administration similarly inherited a security situation must go. We protested and the whole protest went out of control. Tragedies were recorded on many campuses. We said Ali must go. Ali didn't go anywhere. He remained the Minister of Education. He appeared before the judicial inquiry. Ali was later to become senator and even vetted some candidates for appointments into the federal cabinet. It's just like NSAS protests. They yielded anything but negativity. A musician from my state once said what? Nothing good comes easy. And our sacrifices of today are for a better tomorrow. The ongoing economic hardships, and they are improving anyway, would abate very soon, and we shall all enjoy endless prosperity. We therefore appeal to Nigerians of whatever persuasion, belief, demography, gender, and status to shun cause for protests against hunger by prioritizing peace and progress. For avoidance of doubts, the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu GCFR recognizes the right to peaceful protest, but circumspection and vigilance should be
on the message of the SGF, please permit me to invite to the microphone the Honorable Minister of Information and National Orientation for his intervention. Please, a round of applause for Mohammed Idris, Fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations.
Thank you very much. Mine is just to add some detail to what the distinguished Secretary to Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, has said. And in doing that, we would like to highlight in some detail some of those key policies and decisions taken by this administration to put Nigeria moved by the president to ensure that almost everyone, especially the ordinary Nigerians, have government very, very close to them. There is also the intervention in the agri sector. Recall that when the hardship of the food prices was being noticed by government, there was an initial move of pushing 42,000 metric tons of assorted grains to all the states of the Federation. This has been completed as promised by Mr. President. 42,000 metric tons of assorted grains were delivered from our strategic grains reserve to all the states across Nigeria. And the message of the President is that the poor scheme. So far, over 600,000 Nigerians have already received 50,000 Naira grants across the entire 774 local governments in the country. The disbursement of the 150 million MSME and manufacturing loans will also commence after the completion of the ongoing final stage of verification by the end of this month. Now, for the youth especially, and this is very important for them to know, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has an employed who will also be the target of that. The initiative, of course, is targeted at young people between the ages of 18 and 40. I will repeat, 110 billion Naira is already in the kitty for them. This, of course, is in addition to the 3 million technical talent job that is also being pushed forward by the President. Already, now the target is that at least 3 million of our youth will be gainfully employed, focusing on technical, or what we call the vocational technical talent program of this administration. And this initiative is supposed to go on for the next 2 years. Already, about 300,000 of applicants have already benefited from this. And there is also something which, now, there is this big one, and that is the CNG initiative. As a result of the withdrawal of fuel subsidy, Nigeria is making an efficient transition to cheaper energy through the CNG initiative. Recall that at the very beginning, thank you for that, it's really blocking my view. Thank you. It will do me a lot of good if they actually come down. The CNG initiative, in the first instance, recall the 1st October speech of Mr. President, 1st October 2023, where he made an initial pledge and provision of 100 billion Naira in the first instance for this CNG initiative. The world over, there is this transition from fossil fuel to cleaner energy that is moving and sweeping across the world. And Nigeria cannot be an exception. Now, it is not just safer, it is also cheaper by, according to experts, more than 50%. In some instances, more than 60% from the fossil fuel to these renewables. Now, these mass transit buses that have been procured by the federal government will be distributed, of course, around the 36 states of the Federation. This will greatly improve not just people's finances, their efficiency, and in expanding health insurance coverage. Over 1.8 million Nigerians are now covered. Now, these figures are indicating to you the kind of progress we are making from where the administration came into being only a year and a few months ago. This is the direction that Mr. President, through his vision, is taking the country to. And no sector is being left out of these various interventions. Now, again, infrastructure. The Secretary to Government has already discussed the issue of infrastructure around the country. We are aware of for example, the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway passing to the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Planning. Some of those gains that we have achieved in just the last press conference, the Minister of Finance told us that there's already over 37 billion naira in our reserve. This is its highest since January of 2023. I'm sure that the Honorable Minister will also make further remark on that. Now, this, of course, so many others. There is an intervention. Now, very important. Only recently, the Federal Executive Council also approved the sale of crude oil to local refineries in Nigeria. Now, this is halting the roundabout approach to the sale and purchase of both crude oil and PMS that we have in this country. And what this entails is that refineries like Dangote and others are able to full fusion. There is so much imperative that you give more time, join hands with government of the day to ensure that Nigeria returns to the path of prosperity. Thank you very much. I want to pause here.
All right, thank you very much. Please, a round of applause for the Honorable Minister of Information. Thank you very much, Your Excellency. Very distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the ministers will take turn. All right, thank you, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I'll call on the Coordinating Minister of the Economy and the Minister of Finance.
Costs are high around the world, and with our import dependency for raw materials and so forth, we too are feeling the effects. However, inflation is falling around the world and in Nigeria. Over the last 15 months or so, the economy has been turned around, and I would even say saved from the precipice. I will not repeat all the specifics of the initiatives that were. Is there a lack of food? Because agriculture was contracting. In the first half of this year, in the first quarter of this year, it has started growing back again, and we expect that, and we're doing everything to maintain that. Industry is growing, led by ICT, technology, led by solid minerals. It is growing and creating employment. And likewise, of course, services, given our relatively high skill level. Services are also growing. So that is the turnaround that and the momentum that we do not want to see slow down in any way. But on the other hand, Mr. President, even while campaigning, had committed to ensuring that the costs of reform were not to be borne So we have stayed the course in terms of the effort to make sure that what is promised is delivered, and the benefits are now going to continue to be rolled out. So, what has happened is that we have implemented and are implementing a comprehensive plan that covers agriculture, covers young people, it covers transportation costs in the urban sector, it covers grants to smaller enterprises, 50,000 naira for micro enterprises, and it covers, as I said, in the immediate term to bring down food prices. And that's why there are initiatives, in addition to supporting farmers to produce. And just 3 days ago, in conjunction with the Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, I led an initiative to reorder some funding that was available to Nigeria from one of the multilateral development banks. We quickly rejigged it, reoriented it, and directed it at fertilizer that was available, to purchase that fertilizer and have it distributed particularly to small farmers to catch the last elements of this growing season, this planting season, as well as to prepare.
Friends and members of the media, good afternoon. Let me join the SGF and previous speakers, but from the perspective of planning and budget. What do we do, particularly as it relates to our governance? We, the Ministry of Planning, is responsible for the national consensus, which is documented typically in our national long-term perspective plans, development plans, and our renewed hope agenda. This government, led by President Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu, we have a strategy. We campaigned on it. That strategy is the renewed hope agenda. The summary of it is that it is designed to confront our reality. It involves choices that are both pleasant and tough, but needed to be taken. And responsible leadership sometimes necessitates a leader to take tough choices. As most of you will imagine, there's nothing that a politician loves than to be clapped for or applauded. But a responsible leader, while desiring that, will say, well, we have to take the tough choices for the future. And President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu has led us in that. So that is why in delivering on those renewed hope agenda priorities, including the restoration of macroeconomic reform, we are instructed that we should ensure increased funding for security, as you have heard from the previous speakers, and I'm not going to go into the detail. We have increased funding for infrastructure, for human capital development, education, health, social transfers to support the vulnerable, as well as innovation and industrialization. We have brought initiatives that we believe are transformative, that can help us generate higher level of growth based on choices that we have seen other countries made. A country where you have to buy a house with 100% financing is not doing what others have done in the world. A country where you have to buy a fridge or a car. Mr. President have led this drive himself. We have those of us who are privileged to accompany him have seen how the world is recognizing his effort and rewarding him accordingly. Nigeria now have a lot of countries that are willing to work with us to support our macroeconomic reforms and our dreams. So that's why the 4 budgets that we have done in this administration, and I'll take a minute to talk about them, reflect that prioritization, that we are not as rich as we are. We don't have the revenue. We have to be creative. We have to do what other countries have done and ensure that we mobilize investor confidence by our reforms and financing. But just these reforms, we are implementing this strategy in a world where we are not alone. We are competing with other countries. Some do not wish us well. Some have in the past colonized us. Imperialism, slavery, we need not to be repeated. Economic warfare is being put on countries, including ours. Just recently, Nigeria witnessed a technology giant, Binance, participating in economic warfare against our nation. So as our young culture, energy transition, MSME and nano credit support, equally, we did a 2.17 trillion naira 2023 second supplementary budget that focused on security, more money for security, infrastructure, agriculture, wage award to public servants, and provision for cash transfer to the vulnerable, as well as the 2024 budget, 28.77 trillion, that was, among others, designed to reduce deficit to support broader macroeconomic reforms, increase capital expenditure, as well as increase
on the high table, who are also my colleagues in the Federal Executive Council, and all my other colleagues, all protocols observed, because time is fast spent. So we can dispense with a few of the protocols list. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, and Nigerians in general, you have been suffused with a lot of statistics, a lot of figures, a lot of facts, a lot of trend. We abandon the age-old values of morality, of discipline, of cultural ethos, and all of this percolated down into even our consumption patterns, economic consumption patterns. All of these things are bound to have an effect down the road. So, we are going through the paroxysms of the effect of economic miasma, which had been a result of decades of either mismanagement, wrong priorities, perpetuation of wrong values, of a developed society. Those societies were not where they are today by fiat or through a magical wand or through societal deleterious effects of economic miasma without lifting a finger. No. Some generations before now in those societies made the necessary sacrifices when those sacrifices were, of course, very germane. It's the result of the sacrifices made by those societies, the previous generations, that you all run to enjoy there, while we refuse to make our own sacrifices at home so that our today and tomorrow would also be better. The finance minister just left. He was also the finance commissioner at that time. And I was also a member of that executive council. And the governor then, now president, put on his thinking cap, 600 million naira a month IGR for a population of over 20 million then. 600 million naira. The wage bill of the civil service alone was over 1 billion naira. So even without capital expenditure in health, in education, in infrastructure, the IGR was not even enough to service the salaries of the civil service. We had over 48,000 then. And so, ladies and gentlemen, these reforms were also resisted by the society at that subnational level at the time. At some point, we were even being booed on the streets of Lagos. But this governor then maintained that courage, the boldness, the consistency and resilience. And when we steered the state through that gestation period, which was painful. And today we know the result. We know what the Lagos IGR is. It's not by fluke. It's by meticulous formulation and execution of the right policies. Today, arguably, Lagos' economy is larger than several African countries.
Your Excellencies, gentlemen of the press, thank you for your patience. I know you are very, very patriotic Nigerians, and that was why you clap and clap and clap, because the verdict of history is not going to be harsh on you, according to Delhi. And this is because of the Asewaju story, the story of success. Having listened to this, I am convinced that all of us are united. My advice is don't look back. I told you a story before. I don't know whether some of you were here. To speak as a rural boy who has also benefited from the Nigerian dream. All of us can benefit from Nigeria. And that's why we have students' loan scheme and so on. So many, many opportunities being opened up. Told you the story. What used to happen when we were growing up in the village. If you had a boy, I don't know whether as many of you know it, maybe by the time you were born, you didn't have that, do I call it opportunity to develop boys? But it was a very painful experience. But it gets to a point where it became so painful, very painful, you thought you were going to die. It didn't mean you were going to die. It was a period of self-purification. That one was the pause. That one, the pause was for me. Time of self-purification. Your mom would just squeeze it.
Refineries. The nation was given 44 months to that those refineries will come back on stream. That expired December last year. We have not heard anything concrete about working and producing refineries. In May this year, another $500 million loan was collected to support the Transmission Company of Nigeria to make prepaid electricity meters available to citizens, and also investment in the power sector. It's almost how many months Nigerians have not seen anything, any impact or improvement on that. Just yesterday, there were reports that was awash in
subsidy. So his bold statement on the day he's sworn in was in tandem with the law as it was. And after that, petroleum prices hovered about 600 naira, which at the then exchange rate of 600 naira to a dollar was about $1 per liter. Today, the exchange rate is 1,500, and petroleum is still being sold for that price. And petroleum is imported in this country, paid for and imported in this country in foreign exchange. Therefore, even there, it illustrates the challenge. It's a top choice. The simile is, or the metaphor is, if a head of a family decide to have a frank discussion with the family that, you know what, we are not as rich as we are. Maybe it will not be a pleasant discussion, but it will build a better family in the future. The 3.5 billion was collected not to reform refineries. Yes, there was a 3.5 billion naira borrowing through Afro Exim Bank to support the budget and provide some money for refineries, as well as 500 billion naira.
There's one that, oh, okay. Yes, the rice is actually available. There is in the process of distribution to the various states. Sometimes why it is difficult to mention the routes and the time for some security reasons. But the rice is available. It's going to be sold at 40,000 naira. The rice is already available. I can confirm that to you. It's going to be sold at various points around the country, and we'll give you, once they are there and it will
continued to endear the BOS brand to all our fans across and beyond Nigeria. In the last 25 years, the Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, which is the longest-running general interest magazine program on television in Nigeria, has covered and broadcasted events of social, economic, corporate, political, and entertainment values every week unfailingly. With iconic events dating back many decades captured for posterity, BOS honors those living and immortalizes the dead everlastingly. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, proudly boasts of being one of the broadcast outfits with the richest library of archives of past events. The Bisi Olatilo Show's awesome archive of iconic events parade the coverage of convocations of universities, coronations of traditional rulers, inaugurations of state governors in Nigeria, the inaugurations of Nigerian presidents, and President Barack Obama of the United States of America. 2010 World Cup in South Africa, covered by the ubiquitous Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS. BOS was also at the inauguration of the Alake of Egbaland 16 years ago, Oba of Benin 8 years ago, on Oba Carnival, Ujude Oba Festival of the Ijebus, Lishabi Festival of the Egbas of Ogun State, and others. The Bisi Olatilo Show BOS simply is the toast of all. The corporate concerns, the banks, telecommunication companies, and other business concerns have made BOS their prime choice over the years. The newspapers, state governments would rather the almighty Biscon Tv show give the coverage of their awards our inimitable packaging as exemplified by what we have in the awesome BOS archives. The Biscon Tv show, BOS, is the preferred choice of state governments in the propagation and publicity of their programs to their different constituents in different states, because the Biscon Tv show is the #1 program they've all been watching religiously in the last 25 years. In fact, the Biscon Tv show, BOS, commissioned to provide a comprehensive nationwide campaign program for President Goodluck Jonathan, President Muhammadu Buhari, and President Bola Tinubu, which took the BOS team around the country campaigning for votes for the candidates at the time. The Biscon Tv show, BOS, was also involved in rigorous campaign for Governor Doye Diri of Bayelsa State, Senator Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, and Governor Gboyega Oyetola of Osun State. Incidentally, these were all clients of BOS from the two different political parties, APC and PDP. Also, in the very rich archives of BOS, we events that span to immortalize Nigeria's first lady of all times, Mrs. Stella Obasanjo, who died 19 years ago. The Biscon Tv show, BOS, the first and the best, still remains on the very top of our game. End bad governance. August 1st nationwide protest. Protest is a public demonstration of action expressing strong objection or disapproval towards something, typically a policy, decision, or situation which can take many forms, including marches, rallies, sit-ins, strikes, or online campaigns, and are often organized to draw attention to issues, influence public opinion, or bring about change. Protest in Nigeria has always been a way of citizens voicing out their frustrations towards government policies or decisions, and this can be traced back to as far as the early 1900s. The Aba Women's Riot, which took place on the 6th of December 1929, was a period of unrest in the colonial Nigeria. The protests broke out when thousands of Igbo women from the Bende district, Umuahia, and other places in southeastern part of Nigeria traveled to the town of Oluko to protest against the Warren chiefs, whom they accused of restricting the role of women in government. The protests encompassed women from 6 ethnic groups: Igbo, Ibibio, Andani, Ogoni, Efik, and Ijo. It was organized and led by the rural women of Owerri and Calabar provinces. The modus operandi of the protest involved sitting by the women. The women also protested against tax levies imposed by the colonial government, and it led to the death of many of the women. The Abeokuta Women's Revolt, also called the Egba Women's Tax Riot, was a resistance movement led by the Abeokuta Women's Union in 1947 against the imposition of unfair taxation by the Nigerian colonial government. The women of Abeokuta believed that under colonialism, their economic roles were declining, while their taxes were increasing. Additionally, they argued that until they were granted representation in local government, they should not be required to pay taxes separately from men. As a result of their protests, 4 women received seats on the local council, and the taxation of women was ended. National Association of Nigerian Students, formerly called National Union of Nigerian Students, protested in April 1978 over imposition of increased fees, resulting in a series of campus protests across the whole of Nigeria, known as the Alimosko protest. The protests occurred as a result of the effects of the International Monetary Fund imposed structural adjustment program introduced by the Ibrahim Babangida-led government. However, the government responded by sending in the army and police, leading to the death or serious wounding of over 20 students. 3 universities were closed and NUNS was banned, as several university staff and students were also dismissed. Another major protest which happened in Nigeria was the June 12 demonstration. The protest occurred as an aftermath of the annulment of the June 12, 1993 presidential elections by Ibrahim Babangida. The elections were the outcome of a transitional process to civilian rule, spearheaded by the military ruler Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. The unofficial result of the election, though not declared by the National Electoral Commission, indicated a victory for Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola of the Social Democratic Party, who defeated Bashir Tofa of the National Republican Convention. The winner of the election was thus never declared, as the elections were annulled by Babangida, citing electoral irregularities. The annulment led to protest and political unrest, including the resignation of Babangida and a weak interim civilian government. The 2012 protests tagged Occupy Nigeria in response to the fuel subsidy removal by the federal government of President Goodluck Jonathan on Sunday, 1st January 2012. Nigerians protested against the removal of fuel subsidies and eventual price hikes by the Goodluck Jonathan government. Meanwhile, the demonstration led to the reinstatement of the subsidy and a review of the federal government spending. Protests took place across the country, including in the cities of Kano, Surulere, Ojota in Lagos, Abuja, Minna, and at the Nigerian High Commission in London. The use of social media services such as Twitter and Facebook was a prominent feature of the protests. Lastly, the 2020 EndSARS protest is a movement of young Nigerians that focuses mainly for the disbandment of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS, a unit of the Nigerian police known for its long record of abuse against Nigerians. The protest originated from a Twitter campaign in 2017 using the hashtag #EndSARS to demand the unit's disbandment by the Nigerian government, and experienced a resurgence in October 2020 following further revelations of the unit's abuses, leading to mass demonstration across major cities in Nigeria and widespread outrage on social media platforms. The protest, further called Oral Protest, was held on 20th October 2021 to mark the first anniversary of the October 2020 Lekki Tollgate shooting. The hashtag #EndBadGovernance and Days of Rage protests, which scheduled to take place on August 1st to 10th, 2024, comes on the heels of series of economic challenges amidst numerous policies by the current administration. During his inaugural speech, President Tinubu announced the removal of fuel subsidy and later on called for the floating of the naira, among other reforms.
Of fuel subsidy. Unfortunately, the budget that I've glimpsed of dry resources.
This has led to the increase in fuel prices, as filling stations sells between 610 to over 800 naira, a hike in transportation, soaring costs of living, and economic hardship in the country. Despite calls from various quarters, such as ministers, APC stalwarts, monarchs, religious leaders, and the presidency for the protesters to sheath their swords to stop the planned nationwide protest, the 1999 Constitution, under Section 40, guarantees every citizen the right to assemble freely and associate with others, as protests are a vital expression of democratic rights. The Nigerian Constitution allows citizens through and state government and security agencies so that citizens can express their dissent and grievances in order to pave way for dialogue. In the last 25 years, the Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, which is the longest running general interest magazine program on television in Nigeria, has covered and broadcasted events of social decades captured for posterity. BOS honors those living and immortalizes the dead everlastingly. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, proudly boasts of being one of the broadcast outfit with the richest library of archives of past events. The Bisi Olatilo Show awesome archive of iconic events parade the coverage of convocations of universities, coronations of traditional rulers, inaugurations of state governors in Nigeria, the inaugurations of Nigerian presidents, and President Barack Obama of the United States of America. 2010 World Cup in South Africa, covered by the ubiquitous Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS. BOS was also at the inauguration of the Alake of Egbaland 16 years ago, Oba of Benin 8 years ago, Oni of Ife, Ulu of Warri, and many more. As for the birthday, anniversary, and weddings of the high and mighty in the society, the BOS archives is replete with very exciting pan and beyond Nigerian super coverages. As for the festivals like Calabar Carnival, Ujude Oba Festival of the Ijebus, Lishabi Festival of the Egbas of Ogun State, and others, the Bisi Olatilo Show BOS simply is the toast of all. The corporate concerns, the banks, telecommunication companies, and other business concerns have made BOS their prime choice over the years. The newspapers, state governments would rather the almighty Bisi Olatilo Show give the coverage of their awards our inimitable packaging as exemplified by what we have in the awesome BOS archives. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, is the preferred choice of a campaign program for President Goodluck Jonathan, President Muhammadu Buhari, and President Bola Tinubu, which took the BOS team around the country campaigning for votes for the candidates at the time. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, was also involved in rigorous campaign for Governor Duoye Diri of Bayelsa State, Senator Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, and Governor Gboyega Oyetola of Osun State. Incidentally, these were all clients of BOS from the two different political parties. APC events that span over 25 years is the one where BOS paid an everlasting honor to immortalize Nigeria's First Lady of all times, Mrs. Stella Obasanjo, who died 19 years ago. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, the first and the best, still remains on the very top of our game.
Some secondary schools because they are this way to secondary schools. I think he first went to Initial Grammar School. Initial, then there's one other school he attended. You know, some of these people from the hinterland, when he heard the name of their secondary school. But in any case, in 1988, as a reporter with the African Concord. From the African Concord, he was redeployed to the Weekend Concord, where he rose to become a line editor. At the same time, he wrote prolifically, you know, in all the Concord titles, and became very famous, you know, for his writings. He later left Weekend Concord and went to Classic Magazine, where he worked with May Ellen Ezekiel. I think before then, you know, he had done quite a number of things. He used to be a hotel manager, one hotel in Ife, you know, owned by Chief Obashijuwade at that time. Muteroya, that's the name of the hotel. At another point, he was private secretary in the Second Republic to Chief Akin Omoburiwo, a Second Republic politician. And then he also went to teach briefly at the Oyo State School of Teacher. And then in between, when he was in Lagos, I think he sold bread. He was hawking bread. You know, Chief Basharu Abiola had this bakery called Wonder Loaf. So Bob D at that time used to carry bread loaves of bread in the boot of his car, you know, in practical, you know, Onokan fashion. You know, one road, many roads lead to the market. In between, he was also a PR consultant, celebrities' goodwill, you know, which he was managing. But then, of course, what most people know today is his involvement in politics, and he got into politics through activism. When in 1992-93 we had the general elections won by Chief MKO Abiola, and that election was annulled. He was one of those people, you know, who went to the barricades. For his temerity, he was detained at Alagbon Close. In 1995, the Abacha government was looking for him. They wanted to charge him for treasonable felony, so he decided to take the Nadeko route. Radio Freedom was a, you know, anti-military channel that was established in the UK then by a number of Nigerians who wanted democracy. And it was Radio Freedom later became Radio Kudirat. And I think it was Sabitiyu Elenu Gbogboro, Saliu Elenu Gbogboro, you know, on that Radio Freedom. Doctorate in mail letters from the University of Dele Momodu Leadership Lecture on the occasion of my 64th birthday. You may be wondering, why is he starting a lecture series? The reason is not far-fetched. The clock is ticking, and by the grace of God, on my next birthday, I will be 65. And will undoubtedly qualify to be an elder statesman. In my moment of soliloquy, I asked, what next? I'm sure I have written over 1,000 articles, spoken endlessly on radio and television, but not much has changed for my greatly endowed country, Nigeria, and its long-suffering people. My verdict was that criticism alone cannot do the job. I decided to use my God-given wealth of influence and confidence to reach out to our leaders, technocrats, and my fellow citizens in general. So the next phase of my struggle would be to encourage some dialogue and conversations. I'm someone who follows his thoughts with action. It's rocket science. And we go to smaller countries and we enjoy this energy that we cannot have here. So I thought to myself, if I want to buy any product, all I need to do is pay, and it will be delivered to me. So how come we pay for electricity? At you and our leaders seated here today. With all our humongous investments they've all gone up practically in smoke. The more we paid, the less electricity we got. Since electricity affects all of us, we should gather in this room today and discuss solutions in a non-partisan atmosphere. You're welcome, Your Excellency, Senator Rabiu Musa. If we were to look
artists. But Tuesday, he said, so I will check in and come to your house. I was looking at the logistics. I said, no, it's not possible. You won't believe it. He showed up like an apparition in my house. So please help me give him a big round of applause. So I called. I have a young friend. He is my button to Senator Alhaji Rabiu Kwankwaso, and that's Mubarak. Where is Mubarak? That's my best friend. So anytime I want to reach his dad, I just call Mubarak. He say, give me some time, I'll come back to you. And I called Mubarak. And then maybe around midnight, Alhaji walks late into the night. I don't know how he does it, but he is such a brilliant gentleman. So Mubarak called me and said, hold on for daddy. So I told daddy, I said, please, I want you to come to Lagos. I know how far Lagos is from Abuja. And I think that maybe they will call me. When I saw there, powerful, one of the most dogged politicians in Nigeria. And I'm sure he's following in the robust tradition of Kano politics. The Malam Aminu Kanos, the Abubakar Rimis, and I'm happy that we still have people like you in our political system. May Allah continue to bless you, sir. The rain did do some shaggy, but we are representing you. Fortunately, my speech is the first, so you haven't missed institutions by making my own contribution. So, as a man of modest income, you must have read my letter. I'm proud to say I'm a man of modest income. I offered to buy 2 new air conditioners. You can see one there, you can see one here. Otherwise, we'll be sweating by now. I decided to change the red carpet, so you can see it looks new. That is what my modest income can afford. So, just like I did in my own village, you see, I realized that we all want to live comfortably within our homes without taking care of our environment. So in my village, in Ieve, in Owan East local government of Edo State, I had to tar the road to my village, to my home in the village. You won't believe it. Because otherwise, all of us will buy navigators and be navigating through undulating roads. So, that is what we did. Then beyond these cosmetic arrangements, there was something more important to me. In 1994, on this very podium, this was where Chief Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, my adopted father, attended his last corporate event, which was hosted by Unduka Obagbena. So for me, it brings back and that's Abiola's grandchild, Tarek. Please stand up for recognition. So you don't know how you affect people when you do things. So he insisted he must come with the mom, and they are here today. That's how I operate. If I believe in you, it doesn't matter. I will follow you to the depth of the ocean. President Mahama knows that. There is nothing they've not done to separate us. I said, Umba, we can't do that. So, he's not here, but he's on his way. I can never thank enough our chief host, who is my egbon by 3 days. But in our culture, 3 days makes you a permanent. What I want us to learn is that when you are committed to a struggle, you should not look back. Your family will bear the brunt and even the scars of it. I'm hardly at home. My first son, Olupekon, flew in this morning, and he has to return tomorrow to his work in London. He just came in this morning, and I want to thank him, thank his brother, Anytime Yoli, Eniafelamo, and above all, Chief Mrs. Mubolaji Abiodun Arike Momodu Omarowo Subo Obediri Obesokoto Berry. Thank you so much, and God bless you all.
Celebrate my friend and brother, Dele Momodu, and to congratulate him on this initiative and thank him for inviting me to join you. There's so many distinguished citizens here, and in order that I don't fall into the danger of not acknowledging anybody, let me proceed on the protocols that have been established, and to thank you all very much. Let me also apologize for my late arrival. We had a problem with the rainstorm that suddenly broke when we were about to set off, and I'm happy that finally we arrived. Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to be here today to chair the inaugural Dele Momodu Leadership Lecture, the theme of which is, with a staggering 98% in sub-Saharan Africa and another 940 million people lacking access to clean cooking fuels and technologies. This calls for bold and decisive policies by continental leaders and pooling resources together if the continent is to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal number 7, which aims to ensure access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy by the year 2030. World energy politics and the role of Nigeria. By its size, economic power, and population alone, Nigeria can be described as a natural continental economic leader and powerhouse in Africa. When we look more specifically at the country's energy resources, such as its oil, gas, and other minerals, Nigeria has the unique opportunity and the potential to achieve energy security and sufficiency for itself and indeed the entire West African sub-region. Today, our world is at a crossroads of what has become known as the energy trilemma. That is sustainability, energy security, and affordability. Already many Western countries have taken the path of transitioning to renewable energy primarily because of the factor of climate change. And this increased Ghana's installed hydro generation capacity by another 160 megawatts. Although the Akosombo and Pond dams were designed to provide adequate electricity generation into the foreseeable future, Ghana suffered its first power crisis in 1984, following a severe drought, disrupting the generational capacity of the 2 hydro dams. And despite the commissioning of the 3rd hydro dam, a 400 megawatt Bui hydroelectric power dam in 2013, the power supply remained erratic and unreliable. With increasing energy demand coupled with unpredictable hydrology, dependence on the country's hydro potential. Mindful of the need to attain fuel supply security and reliability while addressing environmental concerns, the government of Ghana initiated various policy measures to ensure that the country derives maximum benefits from its newly discovered oil and gas resources by ushering in what we called the gas to power era. This was evidenced in the establishment of the Ghana National Gas Development Task Force to review and propose approaches to ensure full utilization of the country's gas resources through a gas commercialization project in 2009. And this culminated in the completion of the $1 billion Etuabo gas processing plant over the period. As a result of these policy decisions, which undeniably has not been an easy journey, it may interest you to know that Ghana currently has enough dependable generation capacity at 5.45 5,454 megawatts. And so the current doomsaw that we're going through is not because we don't have the generation capacity, it's because we don't have enough fuel to be able to meet the demand. And so current generation capacity stands at 5,454 megawatts, both for domestic consumption, and Ghana currently exports power to neighboring Togo, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, and Benin within the framework of ECOWAS cooperation. I'll touch a bit on the West African power pool in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, on the local front, an aggressive rural electrification policy launched in 2009 increased electricity access rates in Ghana from 60.8% to over 80% in 8 years. The solid foundation we laid has resulted in an impressive 88.5% current access rate. It means that 88.5% of Ghanaians have access to electric power. And Ghana is on course to achieve universal access to electricity at the target date. Transmission lines in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, despite the remarkable success chalked over the years, increasing demand for electricity to satisfy domestic use and export and gas supply constraints is beginning to pose significant challenges, threatening the nation's power supply reliability as demand continues to increase. It's estimated that demand increases between 10 and 12% every year. And so it means that you must always plan ahead, both in terms of having access to enough fuel and also as an accelerated age of oil and gas production should we win the elections. Natural gas will be the central area of focus for us, for our future. Private partners such as the Chamber of Upstream Producers of Ghana have already declared their commitment to invest in natural gas exploration and production with the needed government support. Let me use this opportunity to invite potential investors in Nigeria. When it comes to oil and gas production, you are big brothers, and I know you have more expertise than us. And so I use this occasion to invite potential investors from Nigeria to invest in Ghana's hydrocarbon potential. Let me also commend Nigeria for its leadership in the implementation of the West African Gas Pipeline Company, WAPO, which has played a critical role in Ghana's energy future. For ECOWAS countries, especially notably Nigeria, because Nigeria has the potential to have excess power that it can put into the West African power pool for use by other countries. To trade in the regional electricity markets will be an advantage for our sub-region. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, with our rich historical ties, the two countries of Ghana and Nigeria must urgently lead the process of realizing a fully liberalized and interconnected energy market in West Africa, to which energy sources, especially gas and electricity, can be easily traded amongst ourselves. Finally, the energy sector is the foundation for economic growth. Nigeria must take the leadership mantle
A former Minister of Science and Technology in Nigeria, as I said earlier, former Minister of Power, also 2011 to 2012, and his CV is, a list of distinctions. He's currently Pro-Chancellor and Chairman of Governing Board, Bells University of Technology. He holds a PhD in Engineering from Virginia Tech and a certificate of postdoctoral studies in artificial intelligence and robotics from the MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. And this was long before artificial intelligence became the big deal. He already, went ahead. He's a fellow of the Nigerian Academy of Science, fellow Nigerian Academy of Engineering, use and wires, and 7 mini power stations serving the people, through an integrated power initiative. Now, this geometric power, NABA power, is the product of what the Nigerian government decided to do in 2005, when we had the Electricity Sector Reform Act of 2005. And the big thing about that act was that it opened the doors for private initiative, involvement, and investment in the power sector. Now, that Electricity Sector Reform Act has been further reformed with the Electricity Sector, Electricity Act of 2023, which further expands the scope. But what is important is that in this regard, that for you to have the ease of doing business, there must be power supply, energy supply. But as we have heard from President Mahama, there are challenges, but there are also ways forward. And on this note, I would like to invite to the podium scholar, author, distinguished Nigerian citizen. He alone has 2-3 national honors, when some of us have not even been given one. Professor Bat Naji.
Thank you so much, Chief Dr. Ruben Abati. You are just exactly who you are. An encyclopedia of a lot of things about the nation and the world. Thank you so much. Your Excellency, the Chairman of the occasion, John Dramani Mahama, I understand that you're also a newly crowned chief in our country, so congratulations, former President of Ghana. Your Excellency, Chief Ademola Adeleke, Governor of Osun State and Chief Host. Your Excellency, Mr. Peter Obi, Your Excellency, Senator Kwankwaso, Your Excellency, and I are wishing a life of happiness, prosperity, and good health to you as you climb to the rest of the floors that the Almighty may grant you. I also want to thank you so much for asking me to do this, the very first, this lecture series. And what you said is so apt. Of the then Iraqi president, Saddam Hussein. If the little desert nation with sparse population had not been full of petroleum. The speculation is important because when Saddam Hussein moved into Kuwait on 8 August 1989 and occupied it, which caused pandemonium throughout the globe, Liberia was about to start a descent into anarchy. Liberia is not just another ECOWAS. I understand that at the end of the war, Russia, Moscow in return took punitive actions against the West. Western countries like Germany, which depended largely on gas, the United Kingdom, which had prided itself on shutting down its coal-fired plants and on building large wind farms, decided to resuscitate coal-fired plants have been decommissioned. Coal used to account for 50% of America's electricity But the figure has now reduced to about 17.8%, and it is expected that it may decline to 4% by 2030. Environmentalists are delighted at the rapid decline, but it would appear that decline has not been driven by as much commitment to environmental protection as by economics. Even though the Joe Biden administration has its affordability, the convenience of its storage and use, the case of its transportation, the generous use by steel, aluminum, and cement manufacturers, its extensive use by railway firms, the millions of American workers who depended on it, its host communities, several American businesses that relied on it, directly and indirectly, and its key role in American industrial history. You trust that Mr. Trump will talk in this way about such a product. There is something that we should know about the Americans as they deactivate their coal plants, a great concern for the common good. The United States Department of Energy has been looking for ways to fill the gap created by the declining coal plants. It thinks that converting the coal decommissioned. So it wants the affected coal plants, the replaced, and that the host communities remain economically active. Announced a reduction of its climate ambitions from 35 to 40% in emissions in 2030 to 20 to 30% is a range in the same period. So better emitting carbon emitting vehicles. And Americans had to go and compete to begin to produce same, to catch up. So, what is more, there are not enough supercharger networks in the United States. To worsen matters, other electric cars could not recharge at Tesla's facilities until recently. They're beginning to change. Solar panels and batteries do not charge at night. We know that. This adds to the deficit of high coal or crude oil. It is mined. The process of extracting it is environmentally hazardous as well. But this is not usually discussed. Inks have been polluted. Protests by the citizens against pollution have been met by brute force, by security agents, violating the rights and dignity of the people. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, where cobalt, copper, and lithium ion are produced massively, French lawyers to write to Apple Corporation, the American technology giant, accusing it of benefiting from illegal actions in the eastern part of its country, where lithium ion and copper 2030 and by 85% by 2050 from the 1990 levels through solar and wind power. There have been protests, aggression of farmlands to solar and wind farms. There have also been protests against the destruction of biodiversity and the habitat generally. And this is in America. The most difficult and controversial issue deliberated on at the Conference of Parties, popularly known as COP28, which held in Dubai. So only a handful of nations like Greece, Spain, and Portugal have crossed the clean energy line. At the G7 meeting of ministers responsible for the environment, climate, and energy held in Turin this last April, it was agreed that coal plants would be phased out among these nations by 2035, but that the participants were realistic enough to provide that those which could not meet the target should be allowed to continue. Actually traded on the stock exchange in New York. I wish we would trade something like that here in Nigeria, because there we have a lot of forests. So it is unlikely that Japan can afford to stop using coal by 2035. Germany has set a 2030 deadline, but there is no guarantee it will make it. The G7 member nations that campaigned for the phasing out of coal plants by 2035 are those which have already abandoned coal plants or use them minimally. In other words, supply gas to privatized power generating companies are typically old, especially those GENCOs. Not happening in our geometric power, I must tell you. We pay our bills. Rubric to flush out the new military regime and restore democratic rule there. Nigeria was described by a section of the international community as a country that was exporting what it did not have, democracy, but importing what it ought to have in abundance, namely petroleum products. The description may well fit the gas sector today. Nigeria has more than 200 trillion cubic feet are in a tighter position because they are performing suboptimal. There are now longer periods of electricity blackouts throughout the country. This is despite the spirited effort of Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, the Ministry of Power and the Presidency, making a lot of effort. Matter of fact, just yesterday, we need to have more and more of these so that we can change our direction. I believe, really, and frankly, that a state of emergency needs to be declared in the gas sector. The declaration will save the power sector and allow the government and the other stakeholders to address fundamental issues in the gas sector in a robust manner. The issues will include how to strike healthy balance between producing gas for export and gas for domestic consumption. Gas is equally needed in both markets. Now, another critical area in Nigeria's power sector is the transmission network. I believe that having the national grid the way we have it is still going to be a problem. First, it is not robust, it's not great. So that the national grid still operates, and it's made more robust, it will begin to cure the regular incidents of failure of the network. When I was in government, we embarked on a project, or rather we actually got Federal Executive Council to approve what we call a super grid, a 765 kV network that will kind of ride above the existing 330 kV network. So right now Nigeria has 330 kV and 132 kV, but none of them really robust. But the 765 kV network would be very important and I think we have to support him on that because it's a very important project. Our conception was that it would be done in sections by different companies so that it's not just one of these big elephant, white elephant projects that you give to one company and they just go and sit with it. The development of electric power sector has also been stalled for years because of the suspension of what we developed at that time called partial risk guarantee to support a power purchase agreement. A government that's buying power has to issue power purchase agreement to the producer of power, and that power purchase agreement must be guaranteed. You can issue sovereign guarantee, but in the case that we are talking about, we wanted to have partial risk guarantee supported by the World Bank and backstopped by Nigerian government. So we were able to do this, but only one project was completed on it. That is the Azora Edo project, 461 megawatt power plant, and then it was stopped 9 years ago. Earth will continue to be polluted because most developing nations do not have the resources and technical know-how to transition yet to cleaner energy. Bangladesh, a nation of 170 million people, has been building new coal power plants, and the beneficiaries are not just local people and local businesses, but also big Western firms like Walmart of the United States and Zara of Spain. Developed countries and multilateral institutions need to assist developing countries. So while the Nigerian government should be encouraged to explore more foreign markets for its resources like natural gas, sight should not be lost on the fact that charity should begin at home. In fact, an emergency, as I said, has to be declared in the domestic gas market to save India and China, or even the civets. There is such. Colombia, Indonesia, Vietnam, Egypt, Turkey, and South Africa. We're not even in that one. I believe that we can achieve all of this if we apply the willpower as a nation and the right frame of mind to change the energy equation, just like the BRIC and the CBET countries. It is up to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. A standing ovation for him. It's not every day that you have the opportunity to listen to that wide.
Dear President, my own, let me, Your Excellencies, let me stand on all due and existing protocols. I think it's time to declare emergency. Geometric has shown it in Aba that embedded power will help us in that emergency. We should encourage it all over Nigeria. Thank you.
Our royal fathers here present, I can start by thanking Almighty God for giving us this opportunity to be here, and also it's an opportunity to congratulate our brother, our friend, Dele Mahmood, for attaining this age, not only in Nigeria, but across the world, to emulate the good work that you have done. We need many, many more of Professor Naji in this country. With him, I'm sure this country would achieve much more. Let me at this point say that especially the Governor Ocean is here to say that the importance of generating power, because it's not a matter of only federal government alone. We will have to put all our heads and hands together to ensure that there is adequate and, of course, enough electricity in this country. For purposes of time, I want to say to celebrant once again, congratulations, and we wish you many more years of productive services to our nation. Thank you and God bless you.
Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to stand on all existing protocol. First, to our brother, Chief Dele Momodu, for his birthday. The topic is a very important one when we think of Nigeria, think of Africa, and think of where this continent of Africa is going. If you think our discussing leader said, where Nigeria could be in the forefront of driving Africa's growth. Thank you very much.
Excellencies, Your Majesties, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Dele, congratulations, Roy. Congratulations on your birthday. Let me share a story with us, and you can contextualize it as you may. In 1985, I was a young intern in a law firm in Washington, D.C. called Baker and Hostetler. My immediate boss, the late Mrs. Betty Murphy, was Secretary of Labor under Richard Nixon and Gerald Ford. And one afternoon, she invited me to her office, and in a rebuking manner asked me a question: what is wrong with Nigeria? I was barely 23 years old, so I didn't understand what she talked about, but I just felt that everything was wrong with Nigeria at the time. She said she had just come back from the White House and had a meeting with the Chief of Staff to President Reagan, and they were very upset with Nigeria. They had proposed but on condition that you do not tell the world that we obliged you that. It would have made more sense if we had agreed, and would have had a lot more leverage if we had agreed to allow the pipeline go through. Today it's a difficult situation because you're going to go through Niger. Niger is fully aligned with Russia today. I do not think they would even allow that to happen. But this is a nation that at one point were flaring 2.5 billion cubic feet of gas daily. That's an equivalent of 25 million liters of diesel. You think of it, for over 40 years we were flaring, burning 25 million liters of diesel, talking about in the abundance of water.
Your Excellencies, the celebrant of today, our dear brother, I think I see you more as Nigerian than even Ghanaian. The elders that are here, the political leaders of their country, at least I've seen two here, the Kakwansia movement and our amiable tsunami round of our interest. Let us look at this nation beyond all of us.
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I think Dr. Reuben Abati must have had some kind of sixth sense that I was about to leave. So he caught me, but it was for a good reason, and the good reason is our celebrant, Chief Dele Momodu. Well, it's a goodwill message, and I actually have nothing more than goodwill for him. I have admired him for a long time. He has been a good brother, a good friend, a good professional. The other day I sent him a message. Accommodation. Please, that's on me. So let me take this opportunity to say publicly, thank you very much. God bless you. And may your pockets be continually replenished. In the name of Jesus. Happy birthday. See you again next year.
Veteran. And he's not tired. He's still very active. And you know him, of course, Voice of Nigeria, you know, Biscon TV, and this high chief of the media in Nigeria is polyglot. He can speak, only God knows how many languages. Mr. Bisi Olatilo, founder Biscon TV.
May I please ask us to put our hands together for this gentleman here. Do you know that I had to finish watching you before well done? Reuben Abati. Now the man was celebrating today. I am only 70 years. The man is 64. And when he sees me, he goes down to greet me the way we do, to show respect for me. What do we say about Dele that hasn't been said here and will have to be said continuously? My prayer for you, please, just keep on the thing you'll be doing. You're just increasing by today. Now, Professor Pat Naji, congratulations for the revolution you have ignited that has brought power to the whole of Abia. I'm hoping that you'll ignite it to all parts of Nigeria. But now, ladies and gentlemen, of course you know that I present a program called BOS, which is just 1 hour a week on people's platforms. But like you heard my younger brother say a while ago, I ran a 24-hour platform in the last 7 years. And you guys, you know that power is hardly there in Nigeria. So if I had been operating in another environment that has power in good supply, I wouldn't have been a big man today. And I know I'm speaking the minds of so many of us here. So, Dele, it's a birthday present we're giving to all of us. I have been in school here, I've learned so much, and I will pray along with it so that what this man is doing in Aba can be translated to all parts of Nigeria. May God bless you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let me begin by commending our special guest speaker, who gave the keynote address, Prof, for what has been a very comprehensive analysis of the theme that was given. You took it from the broad perspective of the rest of the world, especially with regards to the transition that is taking place as a result of climate change, and then eventually you zeroed in onto Nigeria and West Africa. I think that your paper has ignited a lot of critical thinking about what the way forward is, and so I want to commend you very much. And I want to commend Dr. Loss was Ghana's gain, because you lost a very intelligent and good son, and we gained, a very loyal brother. If there's one thing that I can say for Dele, is loyalty to his friends. If he believes in you and he accepts you, he stands by you through thick and thin. Him and I have gone through a lot of political storms. Because of his support for me, you can understand what the political climate is in Ghana, especially in election years. He came out strongly endorsing me and, touting some of the transformational things that I tried to do in infrastructure. And of course, he became the target of missiles coming from the opposition. But the kind of person Dele is. He is not shaken by any of such things. He's continued to be my friend, and he stood by me through thick and thin. When he announced this inaugural lecture, I was a bit afraid, because I thought that the time was quite short. But knowing who Dele is, he can always done justice to that topic. And so I want to thank all of you and to say happy birthday to my friend and my brother, Dele Momodu. May God continue to prosper you, to bless you, to continue to do the things that you do, not only for friends like us, but also for our continent, Africa. Our moderator mentioned my special relationship with Nigeria, and Governor Kwakanso mentioned that too. I also lived in exile for some time with my father after a coup d'etat in Ghana. And I lived in Kano, and that's how come I speak Hausa, proficiently. But aside from that,
Thank you very much, Your Excellency.
Edi Lawani and the DJ, everybody, and also the Society of Engineers, as I said earlier on, who are here present. We'll take just two things. Momodu will give the vote of thanks, and after the vote of thanks, we'll all sing Happy Birthday song to Chief Dele Momodu. I think we've...
Your Excellencies, distinguished guests, and you are indeed excellent and distinguished. From myself, on behalf of my dad and the rest of our family, I would like to humbly thank you all for joining us today on this great day of celebration. My dad is a man who continues to show a great love for Nigeria and for Africa. By joining us here today, whether you have come from near or from far, you have shown that his struggles have not been in vain and his efforts have not gone unnoticed. I would also like to extend our thanks to the organizers, the staff behind the scenes, the ushers running up and down, making sure that everyone is comfortable, the media, who have continued tirelessly to capture this wonderful moment. And so thank you all. And just to wrap up, once again, Dad, happy birthday, and we hope to see many more. Thank you.
I think we asked you why it's good to send your child to a good school. It's good to send your child to a good school. Anyway, at this point, we take the birthday song. Bob D will be seated. He will be seated. He's the birthday person. May we all rise and wish him a very happy birthday. Oh, okay.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear darling. Happy birthday to you. From good friends and true, from old friends and new. May good luck go with you and happiness too. Life will be so easy at the time.
Hip. Thank you very much. Have a great day. My name is Ruben Abati. I've been your master of ceremony. Thank you.
Latilo Show, BOS, has become the strongest, most admired, and preferred global brand in the art of high society celebrity entertainment broadcasting. For the past quarter of a century, the ubiquitous The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, has become the face of Nigeria on global television, projecting the image of the country with our peculiar lifestyles, fashionable dress sense, and the different ways Nigerians celebrate from the north, east, west, and south, showcasing proudly Nigerian inimitable styles of celebration. From very humble beginnings to global recognition, the Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, marks 25 years of captivating entertainment. The Bisi Olatilo Show, BOS, celebrates 25 years of incredible creative power as the most admired brand in the art of high society entertainment broadcasting. The Biscon Show, BOS, is usually the first program to break the news about any big-ticket event across and beyond the shores of Nigeria. As the Biscon Show, BOS, celebrates its 25th anniversary of setting the pace and pioneering a very compelling and engaging style of celebrity entertainment broadcasting, 25 years on and still counting, BOS has embarked on a new era of 24-hour TV broadcasting with Biscon Television. Biscon TV, which is on terrestrial and satellite broadcast platforms, churns out news, sports, politics, business, as well as lifestyle and entertainment programs 24 hours daily. Biscon TV, which has a very strong presence on YouTube, is the fastest growing platform on YouTube and other social media platforms. It's a magnificent transformation from BOS, a weekly program, to Biscon TV, a 24-hour TV station which churns out general interest news, sports, and lifestyle and entertainment programs. More years of brilliant broadcasting from the stable of Biscon Communication Global Media Network beckons.
Hello and welcome to Biscon Television News. I'm Stella Opara. First, the headlines. On the national scene, IGP orders cops to deal decisively with arsonists and troublemakers. Students may pay 80,000 naira electricity fee in universities, says BC's panel. In business news, House of Reps directs NNPCL to suspend crude for loan deal. On the foreign scene, Iranians mourn Hamas leader Haniyeh's assassination. And in the world of sports, the Tigers to face France in second Group B clash. Now the news in full. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, has directed officers across the country to deal decisively with arsonists and troublemakers as Nigerian youth stage and bad governance protests against hunger and economic hardship across the Federation. In a statement, the police